Hey parents, today we got a treat for you because we're going to be talking about parenting styles. And Tracy, I think a lot of eyes are going to be open today because we're going to look at 3 different types of parenting styles, 2 extreme styles on one side and the other, and then kind of that middle ground that we think parents should be shooting for. So probably, Tracy, couples shouldn't be just watching this thinking about their own parenting style. I think most naturally their frame of reference is going to be the way that they were raised.
Yes. And I think, even in your own couple, one of you may be one style and the other's a different style. And so you're trying to find like, how do we balance that out and make this work?
Yeah, so let's take a look at the image right here, and then you can decide where you are. In fact, you're welcome to hit pause to take a closer look at this. But on one side, on one end of the spectrum, you have the authoritarian parent. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the permissive parent. And then right there in the middle, in that sweet spot, is what we would call the authoritative parent. So Tracy, let's start with the authoritarian. What is the authoritarian parenting style all about?
Yeah, this is the mindset that you are totally in charge, right? That your kids are, it's kind of more of maybe like a military mindset. Like I'm the commander or I'm your chief and you are going to listen to my every command and you're going to obey and you'll obey the first time. An authoritarian parent, it's not really about asking your kid's opinion or weighing in. It's just kind of like I'm the parent, we set the rules, you follow the rules. If you break the rule, you're punished. So it can be harsh. It can be certainly positive in structure and certainly in expectation, like your kids grow up in that kind of a home, they know who's in charge. But the negative of that is your kids don't really have a voice. And if the focus is on obedience through punishment, that has kind of a negative connotation that over time your kids might want to start bucking against that and might be more likely to rebel.
Yeah, I imagine some of you are listening to the description of authoritarian and you're like, what is wrong with that? That is exactly how you should be as a parent. So hold that thought.
Right.
Because as we get more to the middle, we'll see what the difference is between authoritative, which is good, and authoritarian, which is bad. But first, let's talk about the far side of the spectrum, the permissive parent. Tracy, what is a permissive parent like? What are those characteristics?
Yeah, so the permissive parent is more like you really want to be your kid's friend. That your mindset's kids will be kids. They're going to mess up. They're going to do silly things. And so my job as a parent is just to kind of, make sure they don't totally hurt themselves, but let them explore the world in which they live and not really be so firm and in charge as the parent. And again, that mindset being, I would rather be my kid's friend than for them to feel like they fear me. And so again, over time, if you go too far that way, then your kids don't learn about authority and obedience and following the rules. So now they go to school or they get a job and they've got someone talking to them like, well, I told you to do something. And you're like, well, I didn't ever have to follow through on that at home. It just creates confusion. Plus, as a parent, your job is to train your kids and prepare them for independence in the world. And so if you just let them do whatever they want and let their every whim kind of be what makes their decisions, you're just setting them up for failure because they're not mature enough to understand all of that goes into making those decisions in a responsible, good way.
Yeah, some of you are listening to the description of permissive and you're saying, what's wrong with that? Like that is the right way. Authoritarian was wrong. Permissive's right? I want to be my kid's friend. And so again, if that's how you were raised, if that's how you grew up and it turned out okay for you, maybe you're thinking this is the good way, this is the best way to do it. But again, I think both extremes, there are real issues at both extremes. One of the problems I think is you're never really teaching your kid how to take ownership. The authoritarian is owning everything, so the kid never has the freedom to take any ownership, and a lot of times leads to rebellion when they leave the home. The permissive kid, the permissive parent, that kid never really learns to take ownership because probably the permissive parent is never disciplining.
Right.
And so that kid never takes ownership. And one of our fundamental definitions of really parenting is transferring ownership from you to the kid over the course of those 18 years. You own the kid's life when they're an infant, right? I mean, it's all up to you, right, for everything. But over time, you want to give them more and more ownership of their own life. And I think that's really what that sweet spot is. It's It's not authoritarian, but it's the authoritative parent.
Right.
Tracy, what is
Yeah,
that
so
like?
this is kind of that sweet spot where you are the parent, where you do set rules and structure in your home, but you invite your kids into that process to say, hey, I want to teach you and train you. So to like what you said, so that you learn to take more and more ownership as you grow and mature. So by the time that you're 18 years old, you're ready. You're ready for independence. You're ready to go out into the world because you were a part of the process of not me just as your parent telling you like, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. Or saying to my kid, I don't know, figure it out. Do it however you want to do it. That you help them, that you mentor them, that you coach them along the way, but you give them a voice, that you're able to say, hey, what do you think the right punishment is for this situation? What do you think the right consequence is for that action? And invite your kids into that so they learn cause and effect. They learn that there's consequences for every action, but that you're getting them to buy into that, to take ownership of their own choices. So by the time they're an adult, they're ready.
Yeah, and really you're modeling that as the adult. You're saying, I own my authority. Like, it is my job to be an authority figure in your life. I'm not going to make any apologies for that. I'm not going to be, abusive and tyrannical and authoritarian, but I am going to be authoritative. I'm willing to take ownership of the area where it's my job to tell you it's time to go to bed, or it's my job to tell you you've got to do your homework, or whatever, like punish you, sometimes punishments, discipline. So what you're doing is, as a parent, when you're authoritative, is you're not shirking your responsibility, which is ownership. And so what you're doing is you're teaching your kid. In fact, this is how we did it as our kids were growing up, is a lot of times we would say, when they would roll their eyes at us or disagree with something or whatever, we would say, look, it's our job, it's our responsibility to be a good authority figure in your life. Someday you will be the dad, and you can do it differently if you want to. That's your prerogative. And I think that's what everyone needs to understand, is it's your decision. Nobody can force you to be authoritarian or permissive or authoritative. It's your decision as a parent. I want to really be mindful of how I parent, what parenting style I use. And in our opinion, the sweet spot is being authoritative. Right? Not on one extreme or the other, but you're not, shirking your responsibility to be a good, benevolent, authoritative, when discipline is needed, that kind of a parent, and you're going to be that. And I think over time, then maybe you can be friends with your kids.
Yeah, and the statistics will show you that the authoritative way and parenting style really raises empowering kids. And they come out of their childhood more healthy and independent. So, again, there's a time for structure, there's a time for friendship. The question is when that comes into play, and for you to understand your role, as long as your kids are in your home, is to train them in the way you want them to go, train them to be ready for the world that they're going to enter.